Tony, we're back to more or less bread and butter racing in KZN, but that doesn't mean that there's not opportunity and lots of value to be had for punters.
Oh, undoubtedly, Michelle. I think it's easier at this time of the year to back winners than it is in season. In season, you've got a lot of good horses racing against one another. Competition's tough, and yes, good horses often reproduce their form more than ordinary horses, but the value is to be had out of season. You know, you often find these horses that have had 1 or 2 starts, they're coming to form, these young 3-year-olds that haven't raced as 2-year-olds. They generally, their form holds up. They win. The maidens will have a high percentage of favourites or second favourites winning. So I think for the punter, you can find 1 or 2 bankers for the pick 6 most meetings, and then you've got to load up and just hope you've seen the right races to bank horses in. I'm surprised at some of the values to be had at the moment. I think there must be a shortage of cash because not for the bookmakers who normally give away such good prices, but lately I've seen horses that I thought were relatively hard to beat with some fair value on offer. And for the pick 6s and the exotic players, quartets, you rove those horses or you bank those horses in the pick 6. I think there's value to be had. I mean, last week it was a pretty easy pick 6 that paid 16,000 Rand. So no, I think there's a lot of value to be had out of season. Obviously some of the races are difficult. You've got to know those lower end races where form's changing a lot. The punters have got to watch the way the horses' ratings are changing from run to run. And also, look, it can be difficult when you first start to enter the spring season because some horses do a lot better in spring than they've done in winter. You get a lot of those fillies that may do well in winter and poorly in summer and vice versa. You also got to be careful. Some of the fillies come into season in spring and sometimes their form goes haywire and they've been running well in winter. It's also important for punters to go back. It's funny how horses often come to form at a certain time of the year. And if you go back in a horse's form line, you can see that he may be good in the spring or better in the autumn, and always follow stables that are in form because, you know, at any time of the year there's some stables that are battling with viruses, and I always say to the punters, follow stables. When stables horses come to form, it doesn't matter how big or small they are, follow them. And when a big trainer's out of form, yes, he'll still have winners, but generally not as many as he normally has, and that's how you add value to the chain of punting.
Tony, it's also an exciting time of the year in that we have a lot of juveniles starting to come out onto the track. So would the advice be to punters to make sure you watch those barrier trials prior to those horses making their racecourse debuts?
Yeah, I think it's always nice if you can follow a barrier trial. If you're really an astute punter and you go to the races, which is the whole idea of barrier trials, and you look at the horses walking around the parade ring, you should be able then to tell which horses are really ready to follow up quickly from a barrier trial and be ready to win, as opposed to horses that are clearly still 2 months from getting to peak. They're just here to have a run, to give them experience, and it's part of a process into getting them properly fit for a race. I find that often the horses still have a barrier trial. Like most horses, they still need another run. Often you give a horse 1 run in a race before we had barrier trials. It doesn't mean he's ready the next time. Every horse learns at a different rate, just like children. But it is an exciting time because most of the 2-year-olds are starting to race now. Let's face it, in season only 30% of the 2-year-olds race. That's generally the precocious horses, the horses that are bought at earlier sales with good conformation, because that's why they cost more money, because they're easier to get ready early. Now you'll find that most of the young horses are starting to race, so I think it's exciting. And generally, I must be honest, a good 3-year-old that's had a run or 2 that's come to form will beat the older horse in the maidens. It's just the way it works, you know.
In the 3 months over champion season, 26 race meetings were held at Hollywood Bets Greyville and Scottsville. Over 4,000 runners raced on these tracks during this time, making for 16,000 hooves, which have brought wear and tear on these surfaces. So how have they held up? Kurt, champion season is over. How did the 3 KZN tracks hold up?
Extremely well. Greyville, you know, we've always had problems in the past, especially around the finishing post. Winter, the sun doesn't go up and over, it goes sort of around the back of the grandstand in the north wing. And if you look at it now, you know, it used to get rather patchy and damp. This year we didn't have those problems, but that relates back to our start of our new maintenance program from beginning of champion season last year, or just prior champion season, with light dusting of silica sand, and that's helping improve the structure of the sand and helping the drainage and the dampness.
And talking of the polytrack?
Polytrack, yeah, we did our second phase of upgrade, well, not really an upgrade, just a top up of the surface, reblended it, and yeah, we came through winter and the champion season without any issues there. And then Scottsville, the track came through wonderfully well, but with Scottsville you always got to worry about the frost prior to their big day, the end of May. We only had our first frost late July. That was fortunate because that's the biggest worry for Scottsville. In terms of appearances, obviously underfoot conditions are always a concern when we prep our facilities. But yeah, came through with flying colours. I personally haven't heard any criticisms of the track, but in general, I think we did extremely well this season.
Will there be any work and maintenance done on the tracks in the near future?
Polytrack, just our routine prep for race days and what have you there, so nothing out of the ordinary. For gravel, we have moved our spring treatment out to the beginning of the next year. We did the same this year, so nothing major for gravel. We'll start with our silica dusting again. We've run a race, our last turf meeting, 14th, on the turf for a month, so we've got a bit of time. We'll get in and do some verti draining and some light dusting with the silica to help again with the soil structure. And with Scottsville, they'll start their spring treatment late September, and then they'll have a 6 to 8 week break. There we'll go and scarify, verti drain, and also do some top dressing with silica. So yeah, Scottsville coming up soon. Gravel we'll push through to the new year.